The new second generation Porsche Macan is now all electric. It is Porsche's first car to use the PPE platform shared with Audi and has a lot going for it. You'd be forgiven if you stopped and took a nice big second look at this car because it is good looking. Lots of muscle and looks nicely flared out and wide. Interesting though, it's not really too much bigger than the first generation. This new second generation though has one very important difference, 86 millimeters more in the wheelbase, most of that in the rear seat. That's feedback from the first car that's gone into this one. That's important. Now the other thing that's very different, no roof rails, and that's for aerodynamics because of course the second generation is only electric. The coupe roofline, characteristic of all Porsches though, comes all the way down here and then kind of comes almost stretched into the absolute rear and then just drops off. That's nice. The windscreen's stretched out all the way as well, almost to the ends. Very different. Rimless doors, both in the rear and in the front. That's classy and different and nice. This blade element that you see here can be heavily customized. This one's finished in glossy black. You can get black mirrors too if you wanted to. The idea is though that you can customize that, even have electric badging in there, or the Macan model badging as well. The side skirt you see on the turbo is nicely finished in this glossy black. You see that element around the bumpers and also here in the wheel arches. It is nice, it's elegant, it's a little upmarket. The base version, the 4, doesn't have that. You can of course get that as a customizable optional extra, especially here in the front. Otherwise you just see a sort of a dark matte plastic. Then you've got the colors on this car. There's just so many options you can go for, and in this case it's looking white, I know to you, but it's called ice gray metallic. It's very classy and it's very nice and upmarket and subtle. That's just like the badging on this one. You don't see the colored Porsche badge, it's a monochrome one, and the badge has moved up here in the center of the hood. It kind of enhances this extra muscle. You see these wings on both sides of the hood. In fact, that huge cluster is not just a traditional headlamp like you'd think, though it's styled like one, but it has that traditional 4-point DRL, which also acts as the indicator. That's nice and pronounced and really gives the car a face. The actual headlamp, of course, is down here, matrix LEDs as optional too. The big focus for the designers was to keep the Macan looking like a Porsche, and in some ways also a Macan. That it is electric becomes covert, though the design does take aerodynamics into account, of course. Now the wheels are 21-inch standard on the turbo, 20-inch standard on the 4. On the turbo you can opt for 22s. That's what this car has right now, and you can see it's a two-tone finished in a glossy black and a really shiny metallic silver. You can actually go nuts with that because you can get body colored or paint colored inserts. You can actually have painted alloys, and you can even have contrast paint. Up to you. Like I said, go nuts. The same is kind of true for the calipers as well. So the overall effect is really nice and different. Very sporty, very young. And in the front, the bumper itself is styled a little differently. In this one, on the 4, it's a little subtler and a little simpler styling. So you can tell the two cars apart. Again, that was based on feedback from other models that owners have had. Last thing, under here is the frunk. Of course, all electric cars or most have it, but it's a nice little trick that it has. I've got the key in my pocket. All I have to do is just wave my hand in front of it and boom, up it goes. Nice little thing there. I've got my bag in here, I've got the charging cable in here. 84 liters of space besides the more than 500 liter boot. So that's nice. Obviously the ICE version never had that. Since this is a new generation, it also brings Porsche's latest in terms of not just design, but also tech and engineering. And that's even more obvious inside. Come inside the cabin of the Macan and it is unmistakably a Porsche. Why do I say that? Well, not just the dark palette on this one, nice and sporty. You've got the stitching, you've got the leathery feel everywhere, you've got the cockpit-like layout, triple dials on that instrument cluster, and then the sports seats, even the turbo badging in the seats. It is all Porsche territory. That's good because that's what people would want, at least the buyers. Now, there are lots of new things here, and you've started seeing those on Porsche models in general, especially this huge triple screen layout. I'll get to that in a second. It's also nice to see that you've got the chunky, sporty steering wheel, and it has the drive mode adjusting right here. Now, you've also got this panel here, which is haptic. It's inlit, and you can, turn on the seat cooling or seat heating. You can adjust the climate control. It's all really easy to do. You don't have to take your eyes off the road once you know where everything is. That's nice. Volume, big chunky button. And then you've got this little slider over here. Inside that, wireless phone charger. So very neatly done, and it's got a soft touch so the phone doesn't rattle around. And there you get the little message saying your device is quick charging wirelessly. It doesn't heat up, by the way. All right, now the triple screen layout. Can't escape that. The big instrument cluster screen is 12.6 inch. It's curved, and it's got those 3 dials like you have on all Porsches. Each of those dials are customizable. You can bring in views like maps or, of course, some of your ADAS or your actual drive dynamics. All of that can be done in there, and you can control it here from the wheel. This is stuff you've seen before. You've got this big 10.9 inch screen, another one there. That's an optional one, the passenger screen, but of course it allows the passenger here to use it. It only works when there's someone sitting there, and you can pretty much use all the car's functions, including the main menu, the maps, music, etc. This one has all the extra features besides that, and you can control pretty much everything like every touch screen can allow you to do. So infotainment, entertainment, and then of course connectivity, maps, it's all there. Yes, as you can see, the car caters to today's buyers and really impresses on the interface in terms of content, layout, and quality of hardware. It works on an Android system, but it does give you the option of Apple CarPlay, and it is wireless. So that's the good news there for you. Wireless Apple CarPlay is still very much a part of it, but an Android-based system otherwise. Now, some of those maps and some of that data, maybe not from your smartphone, but from the car's system, also comes onto this screen when you want it. Huge head-up display, which has augmented reality, co-developed with Audi, but the graphics and everything else that you see are very much Porsche's own. And then you've got a few other little things here which are new and nicely done. The ambient light, you see that little strip of light there in red, goes into the doors, and you've got the little glow down below. Of course, ambient light you've seen before, it's even in the cup holders down here. But what's nice is it's also dynamic, so it kind of sends you some of the alerts when you're on the road, blind spot. If there's someone coming in on your left lane, you start seeing those alerts and warnings even in that ambient lighting. Let me show you by changing the drive mode here. There you can see it kind of flashes and gives you this animation, travels around almost in a way from, there you go, it kind of travels across the dash. It's nice, it's something different, and it is new for the Macan. The car's sense of being tech-heavy is not intrusive or overwhelming. It is more about bringing all the things you're used to or that you want in an updated avatar. Now, lots of cars have the panoramic glass roof, and lots of them have the screen that closes to avoid too much light coming in. What's new about that? Well, I just like the controls that have been done here. You can see these 2 arrows. You can just press on that, and of course, if you keep pressing it, it's like a button. It closes part by part. But if you just give it a little slide, just has a one-touch operation, opening and closing. I like that because unlike the Mercedes one where you have a little groove and you just kind of slide your finger through it, here you can actually see what you're doing. So inside the drive dynamics menu, you have the things you can do to adjust the drive mode, the chassis, and then of course even the level of the car. The air suspension on this one is standard. That's the turbo. It's optional on the lower variants, and then we'll see what happens with the base variant when it comes out later this year. Now, right now it's on normal. You can lift it up, you can lower it, and go really low as well. Electric sport sound, that's of course new to the Macan. Turn it on, and then the car starts making this nice humming, almost machine-like sound. And then you've got the spoiler that you can also deploy manually from here. All the ADAS systems, the trip computer, and then some of the comfort settings, including that ambient lighting, and also how you'd like to customize your experience in the car. All that can happen from there too. So really ample, lots of storage space down here. There's a little grippy handle-like thing, and great quality of materials. Phew, so that's a lot, isn't it? And you know what? I am not even done yet. But let's get this baby on the road, shall we? So So you'll just barely be picking up on it, I know, but basically, there you go. I've got the electric sport sound on. Without that, you can be nice and silent like every electric car, but there's nothing silent, or well, there's nothing electric car-like about the performance. That's pretty sports car-like, and that's not surprising because, hey, it's a Macan. So I've got the augmented reality head-up display with its 3 big arrows dancing in front of me telling me I have to join the highway. Let's do that. And you know what the highway in Germany is called, right? Autobahn. No speed limits. Oh, I'm not even in sport mode. Okay, so the response is instant, it's brilliant, it's everything I expected it to be. The overall drive dynamics are done in a way to really match the Porsche sports car experience, despite the fact that this may be an SUV, but more importantly, despite the fact that it's electric. So even though you've got that big, heavy battery sitting at the floor of the car, it gives you a lower center of gravity, and so that affects dynamics in a good way, and that's been exercised in a way where you feel more sports car-like than the last Macan, which was pretty sporty anyway. And so to enhance that experience, your overall seating is a little bit lower in this car, even at the rear, and that kind of gives you this hunkered down, sporty, close to the road feeling. I'm not complaining, I absolutely love that. Dual motor setup is standard here on both the 4, and that's why it's called 4 actually, and then also on the turbo. Now, interesting how the use of the word turbo still remains even in the electric sort of space. You saw that, of course, with the other electric models, but that's something that Porsche says is sort of part of its DNA now, and so it's supposed to imply level of performance rather than the actual mechanicals. Totally works on this one.
Both the 4 and the turbo have a 100 kilowatt-hour battery with a single-speed transmission at each axle driving the 2 motors. All-wheel drive with traction control, torque vectoring, and a fully variable electronically controlled rear differential lock with fully variable torque distribution are add-ons to the turbo. It makes a lot more power at 573 bhp. That ups to 627 bhp when you use the overboost power with launch control. Maximum possible torque is a mind-numbing 1130 Nm.
The dual motor setup, permanent excited synchronous motors, PSM. You've got the PSM bigger motor at the rear, and then even the one in the front is a PSM, unlike say the setup on the Quattro of the Q6 e-tron, where it's an ASM, asynchronous motor in the front. So it's a proprietary Porsche. It's a lot that may be shared between these cars, but not the motor. In fact, the rear motor has a pulse inverter. That's again something the Audi doesn't get. So it's very different. Power management is different, and the performance is different. The active suspension management is par for the course in most Porsches, and certainly in this one too. You also have torque vectoring, and the fact that you have the adaptive suspension on this just makes the car more agile. It also really nicely balances out the amount of power from the front or from the rear, depending on the situation you're in. But you know what? None of that is surprising to you, is it? Really shouldn't be. It's just how well it all happens, even on the electric. Steering, top notch, absolutely precise, does everything you want it to. Acceleration is instant, but I still haven't gone to sport mode, so let's do it. Oh, what the hell, let's go to Sport Plus. Acceleration is absolutely instant, and I cannot even tell you how much fun this is. Now, the range on the turbo is almost 600 kilometers WLTP combined, and then on the 4, of course, it crosses 600. So you really do find that the advantage of having this large battery, despite its weight, and the fact that it adds to the dynamics, is of course the range.
Claimed range maxes out at 762 kilometers for city driving, but more realistic combined figures notch up just under 600 kilometers. It's marginally higher on the Macan 4.
You don't have that anxiety, and you can push the car like I'm pushing it right now without worrying about depleting that battery too quickly. One last thing which is important to mention: for the first time the Macan gets the rear wheel steering. The previous car never had it, and that does add to the dynamics and the agility. It's something that kind of works depending on the speed and the situation you're in, and it certainly makes the car a lot more agile and a lot nicer through corners and lane changes. Like this one. Loaded with safety, lots of ADAS, there is pretty much everything you can think of in terms of the electronics. So really, I think the only thing to think about now is how they're going to be able to make enough of these, because I can see the demand for this model going through the roof worldwide.
So it is power-packed, quite literally, and also loaded to the gills on tech, safety and features. If it was only more affordable, right? Let's not forget that the updated first-gen Macan with petrol power plants is also still on sale alongside this car. In India, the new Macan Electric is available in 3 variants. The base starting at a whopping 1,21 lakh rupees, the 4S model that starts at 1.38 crore, and the car I have been driving, the Turbo Electric, at 1,68 lakh rupees ex-showroom.